governor's office and the Indiana Department of Education are clashing over state-mandated ISTEP accountability tests. Governor Pence told State Superintendent of Instruction Glenda Ritz this week that the plan to double the length of the 2015 ISTEP Plus from around 6 hours to more than 12 is unacceptable to students, educators, and parents and requires an immediate solution. Pence announced that his administration has contracted with Dr. Edward Raybear, a nationally recognized assessment expert, to shorten the length of and streamline Indiana's testing procedures. The state faces a serious time crunch. The process of revamping a statewide assessment test can take as long as 2 years, but this year's testing is scheduled to begin before the end of the month. The State Board of Education said it was given no indication that the test would be lengthened so dramatically. The Indiana Department of Education says stringent state and federal testing standards are responsible for the test's increased length. Also this week, Indiana House Republicans voted to approve House Bill 1609, which takes control of the State Board of Education away from the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Glenda Ritz. The move is one House Democrats decry as a power grab by state Republicans. House Democratic leader Scott Pilath says it's the politicization of public education in Indiana, and that's not what Hoosiers wanted when they voted Glenda Ritz into office.
And they did say they wanted some common sense brought back into the way we were forging educational policy. And they did say that the people ought to be the final governors of how we run our classrooms and not bureaucrats, because that's exactly what you're doing here. You're saying that the people don't matter.
The Indiana Senate is moving forward with its own bill to revamp State Board of Education leadership. The bill's author, Republican Senator Travis Holdman, says the bill is necessary to bring order back to an education board that he characterizes as dysfunctional. While it may not be dysfunctional, workflow might be slower at an area oil refinery after more than 1,000 workers walked off the job. About 1,100 members of United Steelworkers Union Local 7-1 at the British Petroleum Whiting Refinery have been on strike for about a week, displaying their frustration with signs and supporters outside the facility. Union representatives say workers are standing up against health and safety issues, bad faith bargaining practices, contracting issues, and threats made to workers if they join the strike. Lynn Hancock, a spokesperson for USW, says though negotiations are on temporary hiatus while union reps wait on information from the oil industry, the issues being debated have been concerns for a long time.
Most importantly, we are trying to make these refineries safer, not only for the workers inside, but also for the surrounding communities.
Hancock says there's no timeline for an end to the strike, but both sides are set to resume talks on February 18th. The Indiana Department of Transportation is suspending action on the proposed Illiana Expressway project. The state has been working in conjunction with Illinois on the Illiana corridor, which would connect I-55 near Wilmington, Illinois, with I-65 near Lowell. Last month, Illinois Governor Bruce Rauner called a temporary halt to all major interstate projects in Illinois in order to review their costs and benefits. INDOT project manager James Earl says it would be irresponsible for Indiana to continue work on the project until both states are committed to moving forward. It's an annual tradition, a commitment to spread cultural awareness all month long, and Lakeshore TV has embraced it. February is Black History Month. It's a way to celebrate contributions African Americans have made to American history. All this month, Lakeshore will highlight how regional organizations are honoring this national holiday in a segment called Lakeshore Salutes Black History Month. This week, we see how Indiana University Northwest is putting a spotlight on diversity and inviting the community to attend.
Well, it's essential for us to, as a university, to educate global citizens. And that includes an appreciation for the diversity not only of this region, but of the world. And individuals have to be able to work with each other and understand different perspectives. These kinds of conversations allow our students to do just that. On February 26th of 2015, between 1 and 2:30, our campus is going to host a conversation entitled, "Is Black History Month Still Relevant?" That conversation will include representatives from the Gary Historical Society, our own Brother to Brother organization, and the Black Student Union here on campus. So that'll be an intergenerational discussion as part of our One Book, One Campus, One Community initiative. A visit to this community by the Cooler Bandits. Now, these were some young men who had some adversity in their lives, and they were able to overcome that. They're going to actually come and show the film and visit schools in Gary, Maryville, East Chicago, and Hammond, I believe. These Discussions give the community a chance for some self-reflection, to think about not only what they believe, but why they believe it, and to see things from someone else's perspective. It is my hope that these types of conversations will bring us closer together and help towards the revitalization of this community and the region as a whole.
More information can be found at iun.edu or on the Lakeshore Public Media website. Coming up, Hillary Powell takes a look at the death penalty from two sides of the justice system, and Steve Walsh talks to a major player in the regional transportation game. That's next on Lakeshore Report.
Lakeshore Report wants to hear from you. Send your thoughts, concerns, questions, and story ideas to tvfeedback@lakeshorepublicmedia.org. You can also reach us on Facebook and Twitter at Lakeshore Report. Make sure to tweet us using the hashtag NWIPride, and you may see your comments on air. Lakeshore Report, providing you region-focused content.
It's a legislative decision pending in the Indiana General Assembly that supporters say could save the state millions annually in corrections costs. It's a bill that has died twice after authorization in 2 General Assembly sessions, but one state senator from East Chicago says it's time to end the life of the death penalty statute in Indiana. He's hoping a third try at changing the law will also change minds.
Bless you. Bless your heart.
Before you begin conversation, it's there, a constant comment.
Way of saying, bless you.
A selfless salutation.
Bless your heart.
A greeting of grace.
Instead of saying something bad about somebody, perhaps the emphasis is bless their hearts.
65-year-old George White of Hobart says the hospitable phrase repeatedly. Perhaps he picked it up while serving as a Sunday school teacher back in Enterprise, Alabama in 1985.
It is a Southern expression, obviously.
But when I meet him at Grand Park Cafe in Maryville, I share my coffee with a man convicted, then exonerated of murder.
My wife, Charlene, was murdered. The night my wife and I were shot and left for dead, I was then, 16 months later, charged capitally with the murder of my wife.
In 1985, a robber shot White, then 36, and his wife, Charlene. He survived, she died.
Not all murder victim family members go to something like hatred. I did.
But what he also went through was time on Alabama death row. It's a reality only about a dozen other men currently on Indiana's death row in Michigan City can understand.
However, I received a life sentence. I spent 2 years, 103 days in an Alabama prison. I understand how you can go from violence to anger to a desire for revenge and retribution.
White, now co-founder of Journey of Hope, an international group that advocates against the death penalty, travels to teach people to forgive.
If somebody does something not so good to you, bless your heart. Let's go to forgiveness as quick as we can. Your anger or your hatred or any of those things have no effect on the person that has done you the wrong. The anger can destroy you. 11 and 12, 4.
White says he doesn't want the death penalty for the man who killed the mother of his children, Tom and Christine.
I and my children had to reconcile with the man that murdered my wife has never been caught, has never been held accountable. And we struggle with that every day. I no longer want him killed. Now, yes, I do want him held accountable.
There is a second aspect of that bill.
A senator from East Chicago wants to remove death as an option for all Indiana murder cases. State Senator Lonnie Randolph authored Senate Bill 136, which would abolish the death penalty and reduce punishment for inmates awaiting execution to life in prison without parole. It's an effort based on personal conviction.
When I graduated from law school,
after spending years as a public defender.
there was a death penalty I was involved with. I was involved with one where I was defense attorney for the individual that got the death penalty. And we thought life imprisonment would be the appropriate punishment. The law says, and in our state constitution states, that the first objective is rehabilitation, not vindictiveness. Another word for that is revenge.
He says although the legislation has little chance in a Republican majority Senate,
The majority of the Republicans support the death penalty. And so chances are not very good, very likely that my bill will get heard.
he says he hopes to inspire conversation about topics like forgiveness and rehabilitation.
Now there's discussion about it. So that's a step forward.
He also says it's about saving taxpayer money. A 2010 report from the Legislative Service Agency found the cost of a death penalty case was 5 times that of a lifetime incarceration.
God bless you.
For the man who carries his wife's photo and a cordial greeting wherever he goes, forgiveness starts with forgetting hate.
Forgiveness is about forgiving it to God, is letting go of that. Now, that doesn't mean you don't want to hold that person accountable, but the anger grips you and keeps you from feeling the sunshine. Let go of the anger. A few attempts.
The Senate bill is referred to the Senate Corrections and Criminal Law Committee, where a Senate spokesperson said it is unlikely to be heard again this session. Everyone should have decent access to public transportation when it comes to getting around the region. That's the primary function of the South Shore Rail Line. Steve Walsh sat down with a regional transportation expert who makes sure Northwest Indiana residents can be on the go.
Late last year, former Metra Deputy Executive Director Mike Nolan was hired to run the South Shore. He's only the second general manager since the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District was formed 37 years ago. He takes over a system where ridership is up and which is now looking at an extension into Dyer and Low. Mike Nolan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
We've spent a lot of time talking about extending the South Shore down into Dyer and Lowell and the potential for that, but you're actually starting off, you're looking at ways that you can improve service on the existing line, the one that goes all the way to South Bend. What are you trying to do?
Well, as many people know, the South Shore was rescued by the state and by the team led by Jerry Hannes, my predecessor, but they spent 30 years rebuilding the system because it had suffered disinvestment for many years. So I'm fortunate to walk into a railroad that's got good bones, and now we're ready to take it to the next level. And the next level really is the kind of service. I always point to the Burlington Northern service in Chicago. It has high-speed, express-type service that's allowed the areas, the communities along that line to really grow and become really affluent and vibrant communities up and down the line from Aurora all the way into the city.
And you're looking at, and I don't hear that much about this, but South Bend, you're looking at trying to really seriously cut the travel times between South Bend and Chicago.
Really the goal for the South Shore is 90 minutes from South Bend, 60 minutes from Michigan City, under 50 from Dune Park, in the 30s from Gary, and so on. Once we get that kind of service to the city, we really unlock the region and make it more of a commuter-type destination. So right now there are certainly a fair amount of riders, but we're only scratching the potential.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you can go from Porter County to downtown Chicago in like 45 minutes, that's certainly quicker than you get in there in a car most of the time.
Yeah, we have to be more competitive with the automobile.
So how do you do that? Because I know that you can have express trains, I guess, but really, once you get into Chicago, isn't there kind of a major bottleneck? Isn't that what really slows you and all of Metra down?
There's not one single solution here. There's certainly core capacity issues on the Metra system, that 15 miles of railroad from Kensington into Millennium Station, but we have our own issues. We have single track railroad for much of the railroad, the 75 miles from Kensington to South Bend. Single track railroad just means follow the leader service, and so we need double track so that we can move around slower local trains and have express skip stop service.
Does all of the discussion of extending the South Shore south into Lake County, is that taking away from some of the emphasis on improving the line that you already have?
I don't think so. I don't see those as being mutually exclusive at all. It's part of the overall region's plan to develop the railroad, and really we're just an engine to bring the jobs to the residents of Indiana and bring the income back here.
Over the last couple of years, there's been talk of redeveloping some of the stations, especially in Gary. There was a plan out there to combine the stations in Gary. There's Miller, there's downtown, and maybe create a new station on I-65. Is that something that's still out there?
Yeah. The proposal in the strategic plan that the board, the NICD board approved, envisions 2 stations in Gary. Where those will be is not yet determined, although what I will say is that one of the first things I read when I became the general manager was a plan for the Miller stop to engage in transit-oriented development, revitalize the area. We are in discussions with them right now to look at making Miller the first of the revitalized Gary stops, which would involve high-level boarding and double tracking, which will improve not only the access to the residents of Gary, but also the travel times to downtown.
All right, well, that's where we're going to have to leave it. This is Mike Nolan. He's the new head of the South Shore. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
The blood supply is a precious resource, and it's important for donors to recover iron levels before their next donation. Up to 35% of people who regularly donate blood can become iron deficient, which can lead to anemia. A new study evaluated whether taking a low-dose iron supplement would help speed up recovery of iron levels after donating blood. Catherine Dolph has more in this week's JAMA Report.
Americans can donate blood as often as every 8 weeks, but it generally takes much longer than that to regain the iron lost after donating blood.
In the 10 minutes it takes to donate a unit of blood, you lose enough iron that it takes almost 24 weeks if you're not on an iron supplement to regain that iron.
Besides basic screening questions, the only lab result checked prior to giving blood is a donor's hemoglobin level.
Your result is 16.5. That is an awesome hemoglobin count.
A lot of donors that donate have hemoglobin levels that are perfectly acceptable, yet they are low in iron.
Dr. Joseph Kiss from the Institute for Transfusion Medicine in Pittsburgh and co-authors examined 215 frequent blood donors ages 18 to 79. One group had low iron levels, the other group adequate iron levels. Within those two groups, half the patients were given a low-dose iron supplement every day for 24 weeks. The other half did not get the supplement. Hemoglobin and iron levels were measured throughout the 24-week period.
Taking a low-dose iron supplement was effective in shortening the time that it takes to recover your hemoglobin, was effective in shortening the time it takes to recover your iron levels, and most of the donors tolerated the iron pretty well.
The study appears in JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association.
What we also found was that the oral iron tablets improved hemoglobin recovery in the group that we did not feel was iron deficient.
Blood centers in the U.S. do not test iron levels in blood donors and are currently not ready to implement this testing.
We want donors to be aware of their iron health. We want their doctors to be also aware that blood donation is a part of their patient's history and to assist them in sorting that out and maybe checking iron status in blood donors.
Catherine Dolph, the JAMA Report.
Women donating 2 or more times a year and men donating 3 or more times a year are considered frequent blood donors and are more likely to be iron deficient. On this Valentine's weekend, it seems appropriate to be talking about love. Well, love letters to be precise. John Kane has more on this week's Eye on the Arts.
Hi, joining me for this edition of Eye on the Arts is Coria Channing, Director of Love Letters for Kemp. And Coria, what is Kemp?
Well, Kemp, CEMP, stands for Calumet Episcopal Ministries Partnership. I almost forgot myself. No, it's an organization, 3 Episcopal churches that are acting as one. It includes St. Paul's in Munster, St. Timothy's in Griffith, and St. Barnabas in the Dunes in Miller, which is my church.
And you were saying that they're all small congregations banding together.
Yes, somewhat. We get together at least once a month as an entire congregation, but the rest of the time we have visiting priests that come to all the churches. So we all have services every Sunday.
Is this your first theatrical endeavor?
Oh, no, John.
Of course not.
No, I've been directing plays for quite a long time.
No, I know yours. You're a major theatrical figure in Northwest Indiana.
You're so sweet.
You are at Purdue Cal.
Yes.
At IUN.
Oh, yes, indeed. Not at IUN, but I did start the Gary Shakespeare Company.
Well, there you go.
And we are housed at IUN.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
But, oh, I see. For Kemp, this is our first.
I wondered, because I've not
dramatic,
heard of Kemp before.
Yes, this is our first
Other than
venture.
Jack Kemp.
Yeah, Jack Kemp. That's K, and this is with a C.
Got it.
So yes, so we're doing this as a fundraiser. Our producer, Pat Kincaid, had this idea. She read about it. A community in Minnesota had 28 couples doing 14 performances of love letters, which I thought was, wow, ambitious. But we're having 5 couples, 5 performances, and we think it's going to be a really nice show.
And we should quickly say what it is. What is the plot or the storyline?
Love Letters is a play by A.R. Gurney, and it is based on a man and a woman who wrote letters their entire lives to each other, and they read the letters back and forth. And it is charming, sweet, lovely, funny, very funny. I love it.
And
it's
people
great.
don't even have to be real actors to perform in
Well,
love
no,
letters.
no. The directions with the play script say that it shouldn't be over-rehearsed. It's not to be memorized. It's just people reading, but with love.
And you have Phil Potempa from the Times as one of the actors.
Phil Potempa is going to do our final performance, and he and Kate Collins, who is a New York Times best-selling author, are going to be reading the letters back and forth.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful show, and good luck with it.
Oh, thank you
and
so much,
thank you for being
John.
here to tell us
Thank
about
you.
it. And thank you for watching. We'll be back again next week with another edition of Eye on the Arts. Eye on the Arts is made possible in part by South Shore Arts, the Indiana Arts Commission, and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.
Twice a month, Lakeshore Report teams up with the Society of Innovators of Northwest Indiana to showcase some of the most forward-thinking projects and people the region has to offer. This week, we visit Valparaiso University and the James S. Markowitz Solar Furnace, where students and faculty in the College of Engineering are hard at work manufacturing magnesium. While still in the experimental stages, the team hopes to efficiently create magnesium metal with the help of solar energy.
There's only 4 other solar furnaces of this size in the United States, and 3 of them are at national laboratories or military installations. So our students at Valparaiso University have a unique opportunity to use a facility that's not available to many people. So the James S. Markowitz Solar Energy Research Facility enables us to do research in capturing the energy of the sun and using it to create metals and using it to create solar fuels. We're currently using the facility on 2 projects. One is a Department of Energy ARPA-E project, and the goal of that project was to produce magnesium using sunlight. It allows us to concentrate sunlight like a large magnifying glass down to a point, and we can reach temperatures of approximately 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. We use that temperature to heat up these metal oxides, which with a little bit of electricity, we can take magnesium oxide, which is how it's found into the ground, and produce magnesium. And our next goal this summer is to actually, instead of use electrical heat as an input to produce magnesium, we're going to use concentrated sunlight. We're the only group that's using this specific technique to produce magnesium. If we are successful, we are going to be able to produce a very valuable metal, magnesium, with a very small amount of energy, about 90% less energy than is used right now, about 90% less emissions, at a very effective cost of around $2 a kilogram. If we can do this and we can commercialize it, about 90% of the magnesium is made in China right now. We can bring that industry back to the United States. Another thing that's very important to us is we really involve our students in our research. We'll have up to 50 engineering students working on this project. So when we do laboratory experiments, they'll help us set up the experiments, they'll collect data, they will run simulations to predict what's going to happen, and they'll help us analyze the data. So the students are involved everywhere from design to experimental work to commercialization, all aspects of the project.
For more information about this or any of our stories, go to lakeshorepublicmedia.org.
And this holiday weekend, don't forget to show us a little bit of love by hashtagging your events and your out and abouts with NWI Pride.
We want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you again next week on Lakeshore Report.